On today's Agent Leader podcast, I had the distinct pleasure of interviewing Steve Anderson. If you don't know the name Steve Anderson and you're in the insurance industry, where have you been? Steve is a true thought leader in terms of insurance and technology. He's an author, he's a speaker. He will get you to think different about things, not only in technology, but how you apply technology. We have a fantastic conversation. And yes, we also talk about AI and how to utilize AI in your agency. Enjoy this interview. Have your pen and paper because you are going to take a lot of notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Agent Leader Podcast. This is the podcast for agency leaders to learn, to grow, to develop, and ultimately aspire to become their best version possible. My name is Brent Kelly. I am your host, and I'm delighted to be with you on today's episode. I have a fantastic guest, someone who has been around the insurance industry for just a few years. It's been a while, and he certainly has a number of things on his bio and things that I want to share. I'll be talking today to Steve Anderson. And for some of you, you're going to go, oh, I know the name Steve Anderson. Maybe if you are up and coming agency leader, maybe you're not as sure or know who Steve Anderson is. And by the way, maybe you need to get out of under the rock or out of the rock you're under. But Steve has been doing this for a lot of years, and just some things I wanted to share to the audience. He is I'll just say this, Steve, insurance technology expert to help agencies understand, to integrate, to leverage, to execute technology. He is a speaker. In fact, we were talking before we started recording last time that I was probably face to face with Steve. It's been a few years, I think prior to COVID.
Yeah.
We were at an event and Steve was doing presentations, but of course he speaks. He's a well-known keynote speaker, as well as an author, not only of multiple articles and blogs, but also of a book, which I will bring up today, the Bezos Letters. I can't wait to talk to Steve about that. And he's a huge influencer. So I said, if you don't know Steve, come on, get out there. In fact, I was looking, Steve, you only have 325,000-ish LinkedIn followers or whatever at this point.
I know, I'm working on that,
I I may be a bit jealous, but I won't get into that today. I've got some work to do to catch up with you there. Also, I didn't know this, Steve. You got a master's degree in insurance law.
How weird is that, right?
Unbelievable. And of course, last thing we'll get
And of
into.
course, there's a whole story behind that, but
Well,
we may not get into that. So
I might want to ask you, how does this all transpire? And then one thing I want to talk to Steve about, he's also the co-founder of Catalyit, and I want to learn more about that organization and how they help and serve the insurance industry. So, Steve, now that I got all of that out, and I know there's way more, first of all, welcome to the podcast. And if you would, maybe just share a quick a nugget or two about something that I missed in your bio. So, Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Brent, thank you for having me. Always fun to talk with you, and love what you're doing with developing agent leaders. We certainly need that. And again, as more agencies are coming online, crazy ideas people have about, hey, why don't we start an insurance agency? So
Yeah.
I think the only other thing I would think, all the business stuff, and as you said, I've been around a very long time, but kind of where the fun is partly for me now is I have 7 grandkids. 3 are close, 4 are a little further away, and that's and I hear this a lot from grandparents. It's like, I wish we could have gone directly to the grandkids, bypass the kids, but I don't think that works too well. But anyway, that's just fun for my wife and I. So
That's awesome. And you live in Tennessee, right, Steve?
I do, outside Nashville.
Yeah, it's a great area. I just want to mention I've got 5 kiddos. Some of the audience knows this. My second daughter, she's a senior in high school. She just visited Belmont. So she was in your area last week.
My youngest daughter graduated from Belmont. So
Okay. All right.
and
Well,
not in music business. So that's what Belmont's known for. But
yeah.
she was a fine arts major. So
Okay. Interesting. Well, enjoy those grandkids. I've heard that as well from many people. I'm not there yet, although my oldest daughter is getting married, so it may not be that long.
there you go.
You never know. So, well, Steve, again, you've got such a vast experience in the industry. And again, maybe I'll just start with this. And I gave you some questions to ponder on. I also told you that I just kind of meander through subjects. But To me, it's like it's not so much about this is about you and of course your relationship to insurance agency leaders, but what things, and here's an interesting question. What things are fascinating you right now? I mean, from stuff that what you see in the insurance space, and I know it's a broad question, but what's got your eyes and ears?
And I can already anticipate some eyes rolling, but it's AI. Um, and Probably a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer, really got intrigued. And again, one of the things that I've been at least seemingly successful at is looking at trends that are coming and
Mhm.
kind of jumping on early. And I've said for a long time, it's kind of easy to do that in the insurance agent space because agencies are typically pretty far behind other industries. So I can jump in, and that's a huge topic. I'm doing a lot with it now, really helping agents understand what it is, and more importantly to me, actually how to use it. And the phrase I keep using is hype to how. So a
Mm,
lot of hype around it,
yep.
no question. And I want to help agents understand how this tool um, will really help their agency in a significant way. And I will say, I really do liken it to the late 90s when the internet was just really starting to
Mhm.
get people's attention. A lot of new businesses started up around that. Um, this may be bigger than that. And that's a bold statement to make. And I think it for me, I'll frame it this way. It's not about replacement, it's about augmentation. So it's not
Mhm.
going to replace people, it's going to augment what they do and help them reduce, if not eliminate, what I call the soul-sucking tasks that happen in an agency,
Mm.
which are the repetitive, boring stuff that needs to be done. But these are better ways to go about doing
Okay, so I could go down a lot of rabbit holes here.
it. I
And
gave you
maybe
something
I
to
will.
work with there, didn't I?
Well, no, there's so much there, Steve. And again, you said roll the eyes, AI. Well, I think at this point, everyone's heard of it.
Yes.
But I think you said it well, right? The hype to how, and I don't know if you've ever seen this clip, but it comes up once in a while. Was it Matt Lauer, which of course that's a whole side story with today's show, like back in the 90s with Katie Couric, and he says some phrase of, what is this internet thing anyway? Because he's like, what is that? The at symbol? What are you talking to people? But you kind of laugh about it and you're like, that sounds ridiculous. But at that point, no one knew.
No one
And
knew.
there was this general hype that built. And then, of course, it becomes the way that we exist today. And, just to take what you said, Steve, is okay, here's this AI hype. Everyone, AI, 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 AI. Like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean for insurance agencies? So, again, I take this wherever you want, Steve, but what maybe is an example or two of the hype to how? Like, how do you see insurance agencies starting or utilizing AI to best serve them? And of course, you gave us some idea there of the people issue, but
Yeah, and I want to maybe give two different views on that. One is for agency staff. So a lot of companies, we're seeing emerging tools around policy comparison, right?
mm,
So renewal policy and existing policy, where are the changes? That's been a soul-sucking task. In fact, that's where really the outsourcing industry built itself on, is outsourcing some of those kinds of functions.
yeah,
With AI now, and again, well-trained, et cetera, that can be our function brought down to literally minutes and highlighting everywhere in those two policy where there are differences. So that's to me a real practical. Um, Even small things like email threads, agency staff live on email, right? Between underwriters and clients and prospects and all of that. But being able to take all those threads and then summarize them, AI does that really, really well.
yeah.
So now either recorded phone calls with transcription or email threads, and then instead of trying to write out or summarize yourself, let AI summarize it. Here's a key point. A person always has to review it
Mhm,
to make sure it is accurate.
mhm.
Okay. So the
Mhm.
human's already always in there, but being able then to document in their management system that conversation faster, easier, probably more accurately. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the staff side of things.
Mhm.
I think where there's even maybe more of an advantage for leaders, agency owners, producers, is using AI as a thought partner.
Mhm.
Meaning, let's take a producer.
Mhm.
They get an appointment. Been working on it, right? And maybe face to face, maybe virtual. In today's world, it could be either.
Yeah.
And what that producer really should do is spend quite a bit of time researching that prospect beforehand so they know what it is.
Mhm.
The AI tools now allow name, company name, address, um, website, and then the tool will go out and actually generate and create what I'm calling right now a pre-meeting report. So
Mhm.
you're not asking all the questions, you're helping clarify here's what I learned about your business, even to the point of here are the risks, or here are the underwriting questions, or here's what the underwriter is going to be concerned about, or going into loss runs and
Yeah.
doing a much better job of analyzing some of that information. So I think there's a lot of tools there. That was producer. Agency owner. Brett, how many agency owners really understand their financials? It's hard.
Not as many as you think they would.
I
Yeah.
know it's hard. And
Yeah.
again, typically agency owners are good salespeople,
Correct.
maybe not good managers
Yep.
or good, but they're learning that aspect of it.
Sure.
And what if they put their P&L into a tool, anonymized now? Again, I'm going to be clear on there are certain very strict guidelines on what you put in
Mhm.
and not name and that kind of stuff. But you could just start asking questions. What are my biggest expenses over the first quarter?
Yeah.
Where's the opportunity for me to reduce um, expenses?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, it's a thought partner. Here are my goals for this year.
Mhm.
Give me some suggestions on the best way for me to meet the goal based on my past experience, or here's a new market I want to go with. So there's a whole lot of not replacing strategy, but enhancing, and maybe here's what often is happening, giving you ideas you never thought about. So it's expanding
Yeah.
what you do. It's not replacing, it's augmenting.
Mhm.
So tactical at the desk and kind of strategy. And, for example, in AMSs, I really see in the fairly near future reporting going away. There's just a data set, and you just ask questions that you want to know. What carrier did I have the highest commission income in 2024? And what look at my contingency agreement, what carriers can I max? I mean, all of those kind of questions that we've spent time really digging in can be accelerated so that the agency owner can know more
Mhm.
about their organization and get good ideas on where to go. Now, they may say, no, that's stupid. I'm not going to do it. That's their part.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think there's so much potential here. I'm pretty excited about at least trying to help agencies understand what to do and what not to do. There's compliance, there's data security, there's all kinds of questions that they need to be aware of.
Yeah. Wow. So much to unpack there. And again, I've been thinking about this and again, I'm not in any way a tech or AI expert, but understanding how to utilize it and what it means. And my brain tries to simplify things in these conversations. And what I heard, and this is my simplified approach, is that it takes minutes to hours of research and allows you to focus on relationships. And of course that could mean a lot of things, right? But I just think about the time that you mentioned, with producers. and of course the homework and the research and the prep they need to do and the time that takes, and to be able to have that summarized to go, now do what you're great at and do that more often.
And that's
Agency
the
leaders,
enhancement part, right?
yeah,
Get the I call it grunt work, get the grunt work done. It needs to be done,
yeah,
and then use that. And even for staff, I mean, if they free up time, what can they do? They can actually proactively call customers, right? I mean, we say we're the relationship business, and right now we're buried in day-to-day
right.
soul-sucking tasks. I just love
Uh,
that phrase.
I love it too. And just so you know, I may borrow it and or steal it.
You can. Well, I did. I
But
stole it from Ryan Deeds,
oh,
so
it's oh, he's a good guy. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it is. It's the and it's amazing because the agencies always talk about how just overwhelmed and burdened and we can't do things. And again, I don't want to get into some of our stuff, but we talk about, with the agencies, if you only had these top clients, what would you do for them? Oh, we do more and more. Why don't you? Oh, we're just drained.
we
We
don't have
can't.
time.
We don't have the time. And now to be able to reallocate some of that is super important. I also was thinking of an analogy, Steve. Of course, March Madness just wrapped up as far as the basketball. And I was thinking, imagine, as a basketball team is you spent the majority of time just getting dressed and putting your shoes on and tying your shoes and you never played.
Mhm.
And that's, soul sucking task. It's like, I got to do this and get this ready and get the equipment. Like, no, just go play. And I think that's part of it is just getting yourself in the game more and more often to do things that really matter and really move things. And what an amazing resource. I also had to chuckle because I use AI in different ways. And just so you know, Steve, I mean, I know you work with agencies and producers, and we'll ask producers different questions on things. And well, where do we find that? Whatever. And just yesterday, as basic as total or true cost of risk. In 2 seconds, I put it in Google, which of course AI now summarizes, and I go, here you go.
Right.
And they're like,
Exactly.
done.
Done.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Hey there, agent leader. Brent Kelly here. I want to take just a few seconds to remind you that now is the time to create your true best version possible agency. If you go to sitkins.com/book a call, sitkins.com/book a call, we'll get to know more about your agency, conduct an agency assessment, and provide your agency with a customized plan to help you avoid some of the pitfalls, frustrations, challenges, and roadblocks to get your agency to true ultimate freedom and become its best version possible. It all starts by going to sitkins.com/book a call. So I'd like to know too, just from again, and we could take this, this conversation, or if you want to go somewhere else. Just overall, I always like to ask guests about agency success. Where you see success, because to me, it's how do you replicate that? And of course, you dealing with all kinds of agencies and insurance professionals, you see it. What would be an example or two? And of course, this could be super recent in the last few years of where agencies have really you've seen maximize success and do some of the really cool things to drive their agency forward, Steve?
Well, I think a key to success, and it's always been this, is having processes and systems in place.
Mm,
So, and that really touches every agency. I think most agents think of that when I say that comment, they think of procedure, right? Procedure guides, et cetera, which are actually really important.
yeah.
What I see the less successful agencies is that they allow their staff to do whatever they want instead of enforcing, here's how we do it here.
Mm,
Now, how you do it here, we talk about best practices and all of that, which is okay place to start. And if you can enforce those step-by-step procedures, what's happening consistently. And that impacts data quality, which impacts reporting, which, all kinds, it's just cascades from there. And some of the AMS vendors are getting a little bit better at really kind of helping the agency enforce step-by-step processes.
yeah.
I think that also goes into the marketing side. So I've been an advocate, I've been around long enough that I actually started using marketing automation in the early 90s. And at that time, there wasn't email. Think about it.
Yeah.
I printed letters every morning based on a system that said, okay, here's the touch for this prospect today. I printed all those letters out. I physically signed them, had a folding machine, folded them, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on them, mailed them out. I had a campaign, still the same name, a campaign that would touch prospects 12 times a year.
Mm,
So when I first identified them as a prospect I wanted to go after,
mhm,
until 3 months before, when the letter would go out, hey, I've been keeping in touch. Your renewal, best of my knowledge, comes up in 3 months.
mhm,
Let's set up a time to talk. I don't know if I can help you or not, but at least let's explore that possibility. And I'll call you in a day or two to follow up. Or in the meantime, feel free to call me to schedule a time.
mm.
What was interesting is, and you know this, I mean, this is sort of standard stuff now, but agents still don't do it. That's part
Yeah,
of the problem.
yeah, yeah.
Is I would get calls in maybe month 4. Hey, I've been getting your letters. You're the only agent who ever has consistently followed up with me. And I had a claim that wasn't covered, and I'm really pissed at my agent, and I want to talk to you.
Mhm,
Great.
mhm,
Are you free? Blah, blah, blah. So, today it's email. And actually, here's what I think, and I don't see this very often.
mhm.
Stop sending emails, or stop sending as many emails when you're prospecting. Send a video mail. So we've heard about video proposals, right?
Yep,
But step back
yep,
to a prospect. How much more likely are they to click on a link or look at your video if they get an email with your smiling face saying hi,
yep.
and literally a minute, 90 seconds? Hey, I'm Steve Anderson. Um, we've identified you as a potential, prospect for insurance. Don't know if that makes, whatever the script is,
Mhm.
and it takes a little time. It probably takes less time to do that than it is to type out an email. But
Yeah.
and what kind of impact do you get? I defy people to believe that a prospect won't click on the thumbnail that's in the email to view the video. And I'm doing it as much as I can. Even answering emails, I do it by video. It's faster, quicker, it's more personal. We say we're in the relationship business,
Right.
but we hide behind email. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's a rant.
Oh, I 1,000,000% agree. Yeah, I mean, it's super easy to send an email. It's also super
Yeah,
easy not to read one,
right.
right? And you're
I
right.
might even say it's easier to delete it than it is to send it, but
100%. I mean, and I know you do too. I mean, I get a bazillion, market, and it's like,
right.
it's just the same thing. And even when I get, the marketing stuff, if I get one that, like you said, has the video, or maybe it's got the little clip there, or the play button, and all of a sudden, I mean, a little bit of work and effort of, hey, Brent, I'm like, oh, like you did a little work here.
Yes.
I appreciate
And
that.
it's personal. It's not, again, there's some AI stuff where, it's kind of
Yes.
allowing you to merge,
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm not there yet. I still think it's helpful to have that. It's me. I want to talk to you. I mean, it's kind of like being at the baseball game, handing your card to somebody. You've got a connection there.
Yeah. It's one thing too, I don't know if you do this, Steve, because you do a lot of video stuff. And as you said, I mean, first of all, obviously, not only is it different, but people see your body language, they hear your tone of voice, right? That's part of communication.
Yep.
Even on LinkedIn, right? Sending messages, you could do audio or video stuff.
Yes.
And it's just different. Like quit being, I'll say, quit being lazy. Just step it up a little bit and put a little work into it. And maybe for me, it's the opposite. I don't know how you are, Steve, but I hate typing stuff. So it's much easier for me to pop on a camera and say something for 60
Exactly.
seconds.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
anyway, but I think the thing I want to hit on there, maybe reiterate, is you talked about processes and systems in place. I don't know if you find this is true. And obviously, it depends on the size and scope of the agency. But so many agencies, and you said this earlier, someone that's running the agency started off selling insurance, and now
Mhm.
they're running an agency. And, AKA they've got a producer mind. And I love producers. I've got a producer mind. Fantastic. but not always the best at processes and systems.
Right.
And what I heard on here is just, giving your agency some standards or some guardrails, because, I'm probably speaking for me here, but I think about how much time do people waste time looking or doing stuff they've already done before. And then they have to go back and recreate it again. Um, so I don't know if that speaks to you at all, Steve. I just, if that mindset and maybe how you help agencies just with that, some of the structure and processes themselves.
Well, something that comes to mind is, when an agency grows to the point, I'm becoming more convinced that maybe one of their early hires is a COO. Maybe called office manager at a lower level, but somebody who's responsible for running and installing and maintaining and updating those systems. Because again, if it is a producer mindset, more than likely the detail is not the strong suit,
No.
right? So you need somebody that can do that.
Yep.
Um, and again, when you talk about more successful agencies, that mindset of bringing in the skills I don't have, being able to recognize, here's what I'm good at and here's what I'm not good at,
Yep.
and bringing in the skills at what you're not good at so that the organization can continue to grow.
100%. And, I know there's scale to this, right? And there's time involved and as you work through stuff, but 100%. I mean, the one thing that I continue to see and notice is the agencies that are larger in scale and are quite frankly having higher success, their leaders do less.
Yeah,
It,
because they
you
stay
know,
out of the way.
they're very good. I mean, very quickly. And some of that is swelling the ego and saying, I'm not very good at that. So that is my next hire, or
Right,
that person will do that, or that department. And yeah, I've got to have an overview of stuff, but I'm not touching it.
right,
I get in my own way. I got to stay out of that meeting. There's so many ways we
right.
could go on this. So, you said something, Steve. I wrote down. I wanted to get more of your perspective on this. And I don't know if you said it this way, but this is my word. So many agencies know they should do stuff, but they have a hard time executing on it.
Mhm.
Now, I know that's a you know, broad statement, but we see it all the time, right? And in fact, I tell people in our trainings, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to hear. You go, I know that. I know that. But the question is, are you doing that? And if you are, how well are you doing it?
Mhm.
So where do maybe you see some, and again, the way I want to word this is some disruptions between ideas and execution, where agencies or professionals get stuck.
Um, I don't know, lots of thoughts. I think where they get stuck is there really is a difference between knowing what to do and knowing how to do it. So I kind of go
Mhm.
back to, that skill set that really is an implementation type of skill set. The other thought I had when you're talking is this is again another potential use case for AI in that record you or one of your staff going through a certificate, let's just say, easy, right?
Mhm.
Here's how, and just talking through and literally record on a screen, transcribe that, run that through AI, and tell it to create a standard operating procedure out of this recording. This is this function. I think one of the things that has historically, at least, been really difficult is creating those procedures,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And again, a whole process around getting buy-in from the staff on this is our procedure. Well, no, I think this is a better way. Okay, maybe let's talk about it.
Mhm.
And if it is, we'll have it implemented for everybody. But that takes a real, that's not even implementation, that's change management, that's managing your agency and your staff.
Mhm.
And again, I don't know if I said this out loud, but I thought it. Um, Too many agencies are run by staff, not by whoever the owner or leader is,
Mhm.
because they don't do every, I said it before, and I'm sure everybody does their own thing because they think it's the right way.
Yeah.
versus
Yep.
this is how we do it. And that's why,
Yep.
data integrity, data quality, all of those issues are really big issues, and they have been for a very long time
Yep.
because the agency's not managed to maximize that. And if your data's bad, all kinds of problems arise from E&O coverage stuff, from not being able to understand and get reports and operate all of that. And moving systems. I mean, data conversion is a huge problem. Um, so
Uh,
I just think it's, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, even with Catalyit, it was bringing in people who could do what I'm not good at. I'm
yeah.
good at the ideation, the vision, here's what I think we need to do, and bringing in other people to execute the very specific steps that need to move that vision forward.
Yeah, no, Steve, so many great thoughts there. And again, I don't want to make this isn't about me, but it's just funny because I can think back, I don't know, a year or so ago, and I'm working on stuff, and I said, "Oh, I'll write out this process." And our great CDO's like, "I know what you're doing. Why don't you let me work on that?" And like a day later, it's all done and streamlined. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking." So, to
Yeah.
have someone help you with that, I'm like, Thank you. My brain doesn't work that way." I wanted to make comment too. I mean, because you said so many important things. And of course, you mentioning data. We see this in our world too, whether it's a renewal or a sales process. And we'll talk to an agency early on, like, could you tell me about, we'll say renewal process. And well, Sheila does it this way, and
Right.
John does it this way. And down the stream you go, and you're like, well, what is it? Well, there's similarities, but they're all a little bit different. And what I found, it's really hard to replicate that. It's really hard to train around that. It's really hard to grow the agency around that because someone new comes in. It's like, well, what is it? Well, it depends who you talk to. And there's just a lot of disjointness, in
Yes,
that.
I agree. I think the other thing too, then again, I'm thinking of a particular agency I recently worked with. Um, when was the last time you re-examined what you do?
Mm,
So, the question always is, do you still need to? You may have made a decision 5 years ago,
yeah,
this is how we have to do it because something,
yeah,
a carrier required something that didn't work quite as well, but you've kept perpetuating that.
right,
And then when new people come in, you train them on
right,
what maybe doesn't even need to be done anymore,
right.
right? I mean, so I think reviewing on a regular basis and asking the question, why do we do that?
Yeah,
And is there a good reason? And by the way, a good reason is not because we've always done it that way,
oh,
right?
that's the way we've always done it.
Oh, we've always done it that way.
Okay,
The way I was trained.
right, yeah. So just so my youngest daughter's 7, so we're kind of past that. But I've been through with enough kids. Of course, now you got grandkids, Steve. So maybe you have this as well. Kids are a great example of that, right? How much as parents do you just kind of, well, because my dad did it, and then so I started to do it. And then your kid's like, well, why do we do that? And you're like, well, because. And sometimes you stop and you're like, why do we do that?
We do that. Yeah,
That doesn't really make any sense. And obviously, with agencies, it is an important question to step back and examine that. Of maybe we're asking the wrong question, right? I mean, like you said,
yeah,
maybe the question is, well, how do we continue to do this? Well, maybe the question is, why are we
right.
doing it?
Why are we doing it? Do we need to continue to do it? And again, I would add, what new tools are available to streamline or remove or reduce
Right.
whatever that step or process is.
It's yeah, and yeah, 100%. And it's just it takes the ability to sit back and really be a critical thinker and strategic thinking and being open to new ideas. It doesn't
Right.
mean you're going to accept every idea. It means maybe there is something we're missing.
Mhm.
And and I think part of it too, Steve, is you said it like, well, the staff doesn't run day to day, but they're in day to day. So get feedback. Hey, what have you learned? What have you experienced? What do you think we could do differently here? And take all these and then, hopefully create something that works certainly for your entire team.
Yep.
So, all right, I want to make sure we have enough time because you brought up Catalyit, and as a co-founder, I'm looking on here and I'm looking at stuff, and I'm like, I know it's cool. I know they do lots of stuff. I'm sure there's insurance agency leaders that some have heard of it, maybe some haven't. So, tell me an overview. What is it? What does it do? What's the purpose?
Well, it was really a couple of unique things. One, it was the initial idea was from Big I State Association execs, 3 different execs had strategic initiatives to better help their agencies with technology.
Okay.
And, associations have not done a great job of that in the past. They wanted to change that.
Mhm.
And so they approached me, said, could you help? I said, yes. So we went down this path of trying to figure out, okay, what does something like this look like? And how do we make it sustainable? And so what we ended up with is a platform that is really a combination of do it yourself, do it with you, and do it for you. So kind of different levels, different costs associated. But basically what we do is we help independent agents um, understand technology. I mean, really look at the landscape. Okay, what's out there?
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody says, like even AI, okay, I don't know what is all this stuff, or who are the new vendors
Mm-hmm.
that do some AI stuff? Who should I look at? So we help them discover what's out there, what the universe is. We help them evaluate that. We help them select what's best for them, and then we help them implement it to get the return or the benefit that they anticipate. And a lot of that's change management, it's that,
Yeah.
et cetera. So how we do that is our website continues to be building. We really track every single solution, what we call solution providers that
Mhm.
have a product, platform, or service that might be of interest to independent agents. And that's primarily technology related. Um, so, and we track like 28 different categories of technology. So websites and certainly AMS and quoting platforms for personal and commercial and right, all cyber, all kinds of different things. So they can go in and see who's there, what we call the players.
Yeah.
And then we've done the work on their behalf to get more information about all the players. So we create what we call a grid. So along the top are all the solution providers. Along the left-hand side are what do they do or questions.
Mm.
Are they web, whatever and every question's different depending on the category. And then we kind of use a simplified green dot means yes, they have it. Blank means no, they don't. Yellow means some form of it. So a
Mhm.
quick glance. And then the agent can drill down further into those that they want to explore um, deeper. And so connections and websites and things like that. So that's kind of the self-service piece.
Yeah.
And then every month we do a couple of events. One is live, what we call Catalyit Live, which is training on some topic.
Mhm.
Um, technology focused. The second is what we call demo lounge, which is we ask solution providers to actually do a demo of their product and we record it and put it in a vault. So
Mhm.
again, another tool for the agent to use so they can go in and get a look at whatever the service is as they're trying to decide whether they want to go deeper.
Mhm.
And so basically what we do is we help agents reduce the amount of time to find the solutions that they might need in their agency.
Yeah. It's super powerful and fascinating. Obviously, very well needed in the marketplace. And you said at the end that I was writing down, I'm like, gosh, what they do is they reduce insurance technology decision fatigue.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of that. Should I do this? Or what about that? Or what's new? And as you know, it changes so fast.
Or
And
I go to a conference and I hear some agent say, this
oh,
is the greatest thing I've ever had. And now
oh,
I go back and buy it and it sits because
yeah.
nobody's implementing it. It wasn't right for me for whatever reason.
Yep.
So really maximizing their return. And I would say the other thing too that we do that's unique is we do two things. One is an assessment. So it's an agency technology assessment.
Okay.
Agency can complete it, get a report back on where they stand in their use of technology in their agency. And it's really based on four milestones, what we call on a success journey. So the milestones are basic. What's the minimum technology you need in an agency?
Mhm.
Um, um, best is next, and
Okay.
then beyond. So best is
Wow.
best practices. Kind of the first two are kind of two levels. Where do you start, and then what's kind of the next step?
Yeah.
And then beyond is okay, what the way I think about it is what will become best practices in the future?
Okay.
What should you be looking at and planning for? Maybe not this month, maybe not this year, but it's on the radar. AI certainly is one of those that's, in that category. And it's helping agents on a organized process. So you can't do everything at once. You'll get overwhelmed, you won't do it, you won't finish. We talked implementation, before. So we're trying to help them actually make good decisions that actually impact their agency. So that's the assessment. And then we do what we call a tech stack survey. So what are you using and how satisfied are you? 1 to 5 stars. And that's really interesting because now I believe Catalyit has the best information on market share and satisfaction with products. And we publish that annually in a report, the State of Independent Agency Technology report. And if you're listening to this, you want to see it, you can go to the Catalyit website. It's freely available. Actually, the next one should be coming out probably in a month or 6 weeks.
Okay. And that's, I was going to ask you, maybe answer this, kind of where do people go? So the Catalyit website is the main.
Catalyit, and it's, the name's a little strange.
Yeah.
So think of it this way. It's Catalyst for Change, IT for Technology. So it's Catalyit with an IT at the end.
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask you where you came up how the spelling of it. So it's
actually we came up with it because the domain was available.
You're like, hey, this works, and we can blend it.
Yeah.
Then you realize, wait a second, we might have to explain that to everyone if they don't see it.
Yes, we have.
But
it's like
that's
Catalyst,
okay.
no Catalyt, but yeah.
It's got a Y and an I in there. So
Yes.
yeah, CATALYIT.com. So
.com.
Catalyit.com. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well, Steve. But
Right.
for agencies, I'm fascinated, interested. I know agency
Well,
leaders
and
as
here's the other thing. So, when you go to the site, you can sign up for a free account. It gives you limited access. But when you do, there are, and I don't know the number right now, we are in, I think, 28 state associations.
Okay.
Some of those states actually provide Catalyit as a member benefit. So you may already have access, and you can find that out on the website. We'll tell you what states, like Texas, New York, Wisconsin. You mentioned Matt.
Yep.
Matt was one of those original 3 that came.
I can see that. Sure.
So you may already have access to the full Catalyit services, depending on your state association, and more are coming on because again, the states are seeing this is a great tool to help their members with technology. It's
a great service and tool, Steve, and it really is about adding value to agencies, which you're all about. So super cool. So yeah, go check that out. It's great that, hey, I might get this. You don't have to pay for it.
You might already have it. That's right.
What a good deal. I didn't even know that. It's a freebie. It's Christmas, whatever. So very good. Steve, do you have another 5 minutes or so?
I do. If you're willing to go, I do.
I want to hit on a couple things, and this really is about you in this book. And I know you're smiling here, and I showed Steve this before we started. Like, I was like, I got this book right away, and I read it, and I enjoyed it. It's been out for a few years now, but the Bezos Letters, and I'll just read the subtitle: 14 Principles to Grow Your Business Like Amazon. And I know for me, I'm like, hey, I just want to grow my business like Amazon. So, Steve, I guess where I'm at in this, I know you've had conversations. I'm curious, why did you write the book? And just what have you learned now? It's been out for a while and the conversations you had. So just 2 questions, and then of course, take it wherever you want.
So again, long story, I'll shorten it, behind the book. It really grew out of my work with insurance technology. Because a number of years, again, the book's been out 5 years now, and actually I'm working on an updated edition to it. So I'm not sure when that'll come out, but
to be continued.
To be continued, and a potentially second book too. But I have an idea. So we all know technology, develops rapidly, continues, has. I mean, it's not slowing down. It's probably not going to. And I started asking the question for insurance agents, is the biggest risk they face actually not taking enough risk? The agents who sit back and don't do anything, oh, that's a fad, or, AI, that's stupid, I'm not going to do anything with that. They may face the biggest risk because technology continues to develop. They're not, and again, they don't need to be on the leading edge. They need to be aware of what's happening.
Hmm.
So I started researching companies, two different kinds. One, companies that were very successful and are gone. And then we have a long list of those, right? What happened? Companies that have been successful and continue to be successful.
Hmm.
Why? And again, we can point to several. I came across the letters to shareholders that Jeff Bezos wrote starting in 1997, and the book actually goes through the 2018 letter. He subsequently wrote the 19 and 20 letter as CEO, and then he stepped aside. And I ended up reading all those letters in order, like a book. And I realized there were threads through the letters because what Bezos did was he certainly talked about, which is typical in a shareholder letter, how, the company and milestones and how they've grown and right, all those kinds of things. What he did was that was different and frankly, more like Warren Buffett. He talked about how
Mm.
and why. And those were the threads that really intrigued me. And those ended up being the 14 principles. And so my first iteration of that book was a PDF lead gen, one-page summary of the letters, kind of key ideas, key quote. Here's some takeaways that you might apply. Fortunately, my wife Karen is in the book publishing business and has been for a long time. So I showed it to her, saying, this is really good stuff. I'm pleased with this. And she looked at me and she said, "That's not a lead gen, that's a book."
Hmm.
And I kind of went, I don't know how to write a book. She does, so she helps, so her name's on the book. But that led a probably 18-month journey of taking kind of that concept and fleshing it out and then writing the book. Um, I've been pleased and surprised. Wall Street Journal USA Today bestseller when it launched, and it's now been translated into 21 languages worldwide. So,
Congratulations.
and again, Amazon, Bezos, people like you said, who doesn't want to learn how Amazon did it?
Sure.
And so that was somewhat strategic, but the topic I think was to me just really interesting.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for sharing that. And again, go check out the book, and we'll put a link in for that. Steve will try to give as many plugs as we can here. You're providing great value. But um, outside of the fact that you reiterated the fact that our wives are smarter than us, is what I took from some of that.
Isn't that the
Uh,
truth?
there's true. Well, they see things we don't see, right?
Yeah,
Which is great. Is that I just find it always fascinates me and interesting is just that when your story there is, hey, that's interesting. I want to know more about that. And you take it a step further and I'll do this and I'll do this. And that's the idea. It didn't say, I'm going to write a book on these 14 letters. I'm interested, I'm curious about something and it develops deeper and you research and you study. And now you take all of that. And this is why I love books, is that you can take, I don't know if you know how many hours of thought and
a lot.
research and work,
Yeah,
and it goes to a book, and you get to talk about, there's a different form of AI. It's called a
right.
book.
Yeah,
All the stuff that's been in Steve's mind for years and the conversations and all that, now it's sitting there, and you go, huh. And of course, as you said, it obviously relates to Amazon, and they've done okay.
yeah, they've done all right. Yeah,
They've done
still
okay.
do okay. So
They're doing okay. In fact,
yeah,
I give Amazon credit. I mean, I think I bought paper sandwich bags for it this morning because I was just like, hey, we got to get this in 2 seconds. They'll be shipped to my house tomorrow. So like, here you go.
well, and just a few weeks ago, both Karen and I went to a fulfillment center that's close to us,
Hmm.
45 minutes away. But it's called a Generation 11 fulfillment center, which again started with Generation 1 and they've improved as they go along, but primarily robotic, which is why I wanted to go there. And
Yeah,
again, fascinating to see if anybody gets a chance and you're really curious how a package gets from a click on a website to your front porch,
yeah,
in sometimes hours,
yes,
they have
yeah,
logistics system unparalleled anywhere. I mean, stuff coming in, getting picked, putting in packages, and how they keep track and all of that. It's fascinating. And it's fascinating to me how they've built multiple businesses,
Yeah.
right? So we think of Amazon as you said, the retail store, right?
Mhm.
But AWS,
Yep.
Prime, right? All kinds of different things, and all of those have a story behind them that business wise are counterintuitive.
Hmm.
Bezos didn't do things like most business owners do.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons they've been so successful.
Yeah. This is a probably a pretty far aside, but there, just as you said, it caught my eyes and ears. I was at a, and this has been several years ago. I was at an association event speaking, and a very successful agency leader was doing really, really well, and had a chance to sit down, and we were just chatting. Of course, I was asked questions like, "Hey, what's, if you're saying one thing that's really contributed to your growth, what is it?" And he smiled. Of course, this is tongue in cheek, but it was funny, kind of based on what you said. He looked around the room and he said, "Do you see most of the people in here?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I just generally do the opposite of everything they're doing." And
Yeah,
and he laughed.
you laughed. Yeah,
And it's, there's a lot you can learn from that. So
yep.
that was my way of trying to plug in the fact that there's so much in here of thinking differently and creatively. And yeah, and it's funny you said the logistical part of that. I think it was just last week, something showed up at our doorstep. My wife was like, "I just ordered that this morning."
Right. Right.
I said, and I'm like, we live in a small town. I mean, it's like, how did that,
How'd that happen? Yeah.
yeah. So I have to go check that out.
I
All
would
right,
say
Steve.
how that happened is, 26 years and billions of dollars.
Sure.
So,
Sure. Yeah, it didn't happen overnight,
nope.
but it's still mightily impressive. All right,
Yes, it
Steve,
is.
I have one final question. Are you ready?
I am.
It's a question I ask to every guest, so I appreciate you taking part, answer the best you can, and maybe you prepared, maybe you haven't. But a question I always ask is, if you were today somehow magically, maybe it's Amazon, I don't know, magically come face to face with the younger version of you, maybe as you were starting your professional career years ago, and the younger version of you looked at you and said, "Oh, wise and good-looking older Steve." Um, if you give me one piece of advice, what would it be? What would you tell your younger version of yourself?
Um, don't wait to be picked. Pick yourself. Don't wait for someone to validate you. Don't wait. You have an idea, go for it.
Hmm.
And I would say, and this comes from the book or from Amazon. So
Mhm.
the other thing is, don't be afraid of failure. My first principle in the book is encourage successful failure. Long story behind that, but we won't go into. But um, there are things I didn't do because one, I maybe didn't know what to do. I didn't feel capable of doing it. And moving forward is more important than always thinking you have to do it right.
Oh, I love it. It's really good. I mean, there's never a wrong answer when I ask that, but
I was going to say,
it hit me because again, there's two things. I think every human's probably guilty of that to a degree. And one of my favorite quotes is that if you don't place a high value on yourself, rest assured the world's not going to raise the price.
right.
And that's in essence what you said there. But it also takes me to, and this, I want to relate this to the audience for a second, because I do mean this when I say this. I'm sure, Steve, tell me if this has been true for you in working with, at this point, hundreds and hundreds, and for you, Steve, maybe thousands of insurance agency leaders in particular, or high level professionals. Um, it's so interesting to me that I'll talk to those and they go, "Oh, well, they must be so much more smarter or talented because of where they're at." And they're usually not.
Yeah, typically no.
It doesn't mean they're not smart. I don't mean that, or
Right.
talented, but it's interesting. Like, the difference is that their mind. They're willing and able to take chances. They're willing and able to bet on themselves, put themselves out there, and as you said, Steve, embrace failure. Be okay with it.
Yeah,
And
and again, I always like to say you don't seek out failure,
mm-mm,
but if you're putting yourself out there, it's going to be a part of what happens. And
yeah,
so, maybe be sad for a little while, get over it, make the next step.
Yeah, get back on the bike. Well, Steve, thanks so much. And you've put some extra time into this, and I appreciate it. This was fascinating conversation. I knew it would be. I knew it would be fun. I knew it'd be good. You over delivered. We appreciate it. And I just want to thank you. Any final words you'd like to share before we depart and say goodbye, Steve?
Thanks for having me first. I really enjoy these kind of conversations, and I think for, again, the audience is, um, I feel like there's uncertain times now, and yeah, between technology and all kinds of other things. And remember, you got through all kinds of stuff in the past. We'll get through this going to the future. So keep that in mind. And again, don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah, good stuff. Steve, thanks so much. Appreciate you listening, and continue to subscribe, download, all that stuff that people do with podcasts. We appreciate you, Steve. Again, thanks for being here. And for you, the agent leader, wish you all the best in your success. Thanks for listening. The Agent Leader Podcast is brought to you by the fine folks of the Rough Notes Company. They are publishers of the insurance industry's leading magazine and technical insurance content. Rough Notes magazine profiles successful agencies plus keen insights from respected experts on a host of must-know topics. Rough Notes Advantage Plus provides the tools to help your agency grow, providing authoritative information on complex coverage issues. Visit them and learn more at roughnotes.com. Wait, you're still here? Hey, Agent Leader Podcast listeners, Brent Kelly again. I want to first of all thank you for listening to the Agent Leader Podcast and your continued support. If you would like to have more content come your way, please help us by sharing the podcast, subscribing to the podcast, telling people about the podcast. And if you as an agent leader are truly ready to take that next step in your agency, you're committed and want to be that best version possible agency, don't wait. Go to sitkins.com/book a call. Sitkins.com/book a call. We want to provide the blueprint for your agency to help you create more impact with less effort. And it all starts by going to sitkins.com/book a call. All right, now you can actually go. Thanks.